We just had our highest grossing months ever, 2 6-figure months out of the past 3. But I feel like in the past 60 days, I'm more frustrated with the business than I have been since I started it. Here's why both those things can be true at the same time. I'm Jake. My wife and I have 4 kids, and after 4 layoffs in 2.5 years, we both co-founded our own businesses, and we're documenting the journey. So if you're aspiring parent entrepreneur, you want to start your own business, then I'd ask you to subscribe and follow along. So for context, we were running Meta Ads for my business, a software development company that builds custom software for other mature or medium-sized businesses. Now, I launched this campaign a while ago last year, but was able to iterate on it and launch one this January that was way different, and it actually started to gain success pretty quickly in the first 3 months. So in January, we saw our first lead come through, which is exciting. In February, we saw a few leads come in, and it kept gaining more and more steam. More and more bookings were coming in. It was becoming more efficient, and each lead was costing less and less and less. And even into March, we were getting a ton of leads. Then all of a sudden, the 3rd week in March hit, and everything got really quiet all of a sudden, which was really strange. And it didn't recover for months. So let me explain what broke with our Meta Ads. So we inherited an inefficient ad structure from the agency that we fired earlier in the year. So they set it up as an engagement campaign instead of a leads campaign, which just means that it goes after engagement with your posts, likes, shares, comments, things like that. Where if I were to set it up today, like I did, I would go after leads because that's what I actually prioritize. And with Andromeda and Meta today, you don't try to work around it. You just try to give it what you actually want, which for me, I care most about leads. So it was still doing a good job because the ads were successful and they kept gaining more momentum month after month. But then something happened. The scheduler that we were using broke, and it broke silently, so we had no clue that it broke. And then at the same time, we launched an ad that got so much engagement from the algorithm that it completely took off. And since it was engagement focused for that campaign, it essentially took the algorithm and going from what I cared about, which were bookings, to putting all the efforts into gaining more engagement around this post. That means months of optimization between January and March completely went out the window because people couldn't book a call even if they wanted to. And then we were training the algorithm to go after engagements because that's what the campaign was originally set up to do. So when everything broke, it forced me to rebuild what I'd been putting off. So I just wanted to keep that going. I didn't want to touch it and break it and mess it up. But once it broke, it was time. Now I'll get more into why I stuck with Meta and the story behind that, of what the upside is here and why I'm still working with it. But I want to give you some context on the numbers and what we've done revenue-wise so far. So for the year so far in 2026, in January we did $63,000. February was $87,000. March was $109,000. April was $86,000. And so far, we're tracking to do $100,000 and maybe $116,000 if one other deal comes in and squeaks in at the last minute. So what's amazing is that we're setting records, but we're setting records on a system that's broken because ashamedly, I, in the last 14 months, have spent $40,562 on Meta Ads and another $10,000 on agency fees before I fired the agency. And that's 0 closed deals from ads yet. Stick with me though, because these ads aren't working, it's forced us to continue to be scrappy. Because with a good advertising campaign, whether you're doing Google ads or Meta ads, presumably if you put $1 in, you should be able to get at least $2 back. That's what we call customer acquisition cost. How much does it take for you to acquire a customer? And what's the lifetime value of the customer that you're getting back? So again, it's like a slot machine that once it's optimized, you put in $1, you get $2 in. You put in another dollar, you get $4 in if it continues to optimize. For context and for our business, if this channel continues to do well, we could put $1 in and get $30 out. Or potentially you get so efficient or the customer stays so long that we put $1 into the advertising machine and it spits back out 90. That means that we could just arbitrage and put more and more money in and continue to spit out more and more and more and more and continue to grow like crazy. But without that, every deal is hunted manually. And we're doing so running both sales motions at the same time. So what that means is I'm paying 5 figures in advertising per month, and at the same time going out and just finding deals and writing handwritten cards and attending events and just going to expos and talking to as many people as possible. That doesn't scale necessarily, while also trying to get this leverage system to get moving. And if I'm spending $10,000 on advertising, for example, and it takes us 3 months to close a deal that comes in, then we could not potentially see the first dollar of our efforts until 3 months from now. So it's this continual push and pull of doing whatever it takes to bring money into the door to continue to scale, while at the same time taking our profits and putting into this black box that we're hoping that we'll see a return on the back end. Maybe it'll be in a few weeks, maybe it'll be in a few months. But before you judge me for continuing to stick with meta ads, let me explain why I'm sticking with it. For one, there's this huge overarching picture of no one else is doing this right now. And it sounds like I'm being overly dramatic, but legitimately, for software development in the business space at B2B, for the niche that we're in, I cannot find anyone else that is running ads in this space. What does that mean? Why should you care? Why should I care? Well, that means that if we can find a successful campaign or at least replicate what we were doing prior, that means we own the space. There's very few opportunities where you have the opportunity to jump in either early on something where no one else exists, where you could own the market. You see, most B2B software development companies do not use meta ads. They just don't think it's worth it. They think it's only for consumers. But I saw that Meta over the past year has put in a lot of money into making it more B2B friendly. And so because of that, I recognize that, okay, if we can make this successful, then we can be the one who's on Meta, on Instagram, on Facebook, in these timelines. We could beat everyone else to it. What has been encouraging is in the last year, as we've been running campaigns and with the engagement campaign that broke, we did get 7 highly qualified leads, one of which will probably turn into a deal in October. And by qualified, these are very expensive leads that if we were to buy them from someone else, they would be worth probably $3,000 to $5,000. So these are CEOs, presidents, and VPs of companies between 5 to 200 million within our niche. So again, to summarize, we can own the space if it's successful and beat everyone else to it, all of our competitors. We've confirmed that, okay, there is real quality here that we could go after. Our ICP, our ideal clients live here and they can book and they have booked before. So let's get them to do that again. And then in addition, so far, as of May 22nd, 2026, so far, the leading indicators on this new campaign, this new restructuring of taking the old ads that worked in the engagement campaign into the lead campaign that I relaunched a few weeks ago, it's already showing to operate more efficiently. So unless it all just breaks again on both sides, which I guess could happen, anything can happen, then we should see a breakout happen in June, Lord willing. So if we can replicate and pass what the prior campaign was doing, then we have a real compounding effect here that we could track by the end of the year doing somewhere between 1.7 and 2.5 million for this year, and probably double that the year after. Now, if the trajectory holds and we just have to continue to do guerrilla ways of finding deals in ways that don't scale, then we're probably looking more somewhere between 1 to 1.5 million. But I'll be a lot more stressed out, be scraping my way to deals like I have since we started this business. I'll check in with you in a few weeks to tell you what the findings have been and whether or not this has been successful. I'll see you next time.